So Rabbi Meir said you could burn them together, because since you're burning them anyway, if you're burning them anyway, because it's going to be chametz, it's going to be usher in this period, so burn them together. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is that there's a mitzvah in the Torah that you got to make sure that truma tahora doesn't become tameh. And when you're burning them together in the same bonfire, so to speak, the truma tameya is going to be mitama, the truma tahora. One loaf is going to be mitama, the other loaf. And Rameir said, don't worry about that, because you're burning it anyway, so might as well continue to, it's going to be usher anyway, you can burn it. Because without Rabbi Meir, I would have thought that when you're coming to burn the chametz Erev Pesach, you should have two bonfires, one for truma tameya and one for truma tahora. Don't mix them together. Rabbi Meir says you could mix them together. Now, how did Rabbi Meir know this? That's the key of the whole daf. So let's just review. Let's get this very clear. Just to review. You know what an avi avos is talking about? That's a dead body. You hear we made a picture of a dead body over here.
Yeah.
That's mitama ba'oil. The next step is a guy. The next step is a person who is an avatoma who touches an avi avos. Right? He's the next step down. That you're clear. One point that there's a funny halacha is that when normally you always go down a notch. Let's say an av touches something else, it becomes a rishon, always going down, except a metal item, let's say a knife, that touches a mace, would also become like the avi avos tama. It would not move down. Or a metal kalim that touch an av will remain an av, it will not move down to be a rishon. So keep that in mind. But in a normal instance, an av touching something, if an av, let's say this man who touched who touched the dead body, would touch another man, or he touches a bowl, or a food, or liquid, all these things will become a rishon because they move down a notch. Now let's give examples of avs. An av could be a dead animal, a dead bird. An av could be, what's this? A dead shark. What's this? Can be a man could be an av, a woman could be an av. A man could be an av if he has like an emission like shichva zera, but not really shichva zera. It's called zav. Okay, like a sickly shichva zera, semen. And a woman, if she sees the blood not in her time, she becomes a zava. They become like a tumah, an ava tumah. Or what's this? A woman giving birth, right? A woman giving birth is a yoledes. She's also an ava tumah. These are examples of ava tumah. They touch another human, a bowl, food, liquid. They become a rishon l'tumah. A rishon l'tumah cannot make another human or another bowl or adam into a sheni. That's impossible. A man technically can never become a sheni. The only thing they could do, mitama, if they touch it, is if they touch food or they touch liquid, that can become a sheni l'truma. And that applies whether the food is chulin, non-secular food, truma, or if it's kachim, like karbanos. Fine. There's one type of shenim in HaTorah that is even by a human. How's that possible? You had this many times. It's called a tful yoim. A tful yoim is somebody, all these guys, the man, woman, or they go to the mikvah and the sun didn't set. So really, they're tahar. But the Torah calls them a hair of shemesh. They're waiting till the sun to set. During that time, the human has a din like a sheni. That's a separate case where you find the sheni b'daraisa.
Bernard, one question. You said avi avot is also is the sheretz, right? Avi
avos is here.
Just a dead body?
Just the dead body. That's matama ba'ohel.
Okay, I thought. Okay, I was mistaken. Okay.
Right. So it's going to avi avos, then the avs, then the rishons,
right.
Then we're going to shenis.
Right.
Now, midrabanan, if a human being would eat truma tameya, or would eat food that is tamei, drink that is tamei, or even if you eat just like a sheni l'tuma, the human being could become tamei. We learned about that in Masechta Shabbos in the beginning. If you eat tamei food, midrabanan, you could become tamei. Or if you immerse yourself in drawn water, or if tahor, if you like 3 lug fell on you, these are gzeros d'rabbanan that made a human being become Tamei D'Rabbanan. And it might even be more stricter than a Deraisa Tamei D'Rabbanan, which we'll see, but that's not for now. We also know that the sacred scrolls, if you remember, the Sefer Torah has a din like a Sheni L'Tumah. These are all D'Rabbanan Shenis. Up until the blue line over here is Deraisa Sheni L'Tumah. Okay. Then there's a possibility for food to become a Shlishi L'Tumah. If only by Truma and Kachim it applies. It does not apply by Chulin. So for example, let's take a simple case. A Tvul Yoim touches Truma, it becomes a Shlishi, because a Tvul Yoim is a Sheni, it touches regular Truma, that Truma goes down a notch, becomes a Shlishi. And Kachim could go even Revi'i. Kachim could go down another notch, which means if Kachim of food, or Truma Shlishi of Truma, touches Kachim, a food of Kachim, or a drink, let's do it by Mashka of Truma. Well, Mashka of Truma, which is a Shlishi, touches Kachim, will become a Revi'i. That's called Revi'i over here. That's called Revi'i. So now, by the way, when you reach the end of a line, like over here, by Shlishi of Truma, it cannot go to become a Revi'i. That is called the last bus stop, so to speak. That's called a puzzle. A puzzle means it can't go any further. So that's another way it's Tamei, but it can't make other people Tamei. So Truma cannot make other Truma a Revi'i. Okay, that's what you have to know so far. Comes along, now, getting back to what we discussed before. Remember, I said before, Reb Meir said that in this hour, when you're burning chametz, you're allowed to drop in Truma Tahora and Truma Tameya in one bonfire, because you can burn them together. Now, where did Reb Meir get that idea? That should be a problem of being metame Truma Tahora. How did Reb Meir allow that? Where did he get his source from? He says, from the Mishnah, it says, Reb Meir says, midivreihem. I got it from the following words. So in the previous Mishnah, it says, Rab Chanina said that he was in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, and he saw that they used to burn kachim. Kachim means holy things, karbanos, that was a rishon l'tumah, together with kachim, that was a shlishi l'tumah. Okay? That's the way the Gemara concludes. And what happens if they, let's say you can't eat kachim that's tamei. So they said it's going to be burnt anyway. So why should I make two separate fires? They used to take kachim that was a rishon l'tumah, burn it together with kachim that was a shlishi l'tumah, even though the shlishi now becomes a sheni because it's moving up a notch. So it's moving up a notch. Still, they didn't hesitate to burn it because anyway you're going to destroy it. Says Reb Meir, since you're going to destroy the chometz anyway, so truma, because after chatzos already you can't eat even the truma tahora. You're allowed to burn the truma tahora together with the truma tameya. That's what the Gemara. That's what we said in the Mishnah. So, by the way, you could ask, wait a second, hold it. This is different than what Reb Meir is talking about. Reb Meir, this is when they're tamei. This kachim is tamei rishon. This is tamei shlishi. So they're both tamei anyway. But Rabbi Meir is talking about a case where the truma tahora was completely non-tamei. So he's like taking it one step further than Rab Chanina. So that's going to be Mark going to talk about that. Then also in our Mishnah, just to complete the thought, Rabbi Akiva agreed with Rabbi Chanina, but he said even further. It seems that Rabbi Akiva lived in the time of the Beis HaMikdash. That's what I'm thinking. But he says that I saw them take oil of truma, pour it into a metal bowl that touched an avatuma. Now remember, a metal bowl that touches an avatuma is an avatuma because a metal thing remains the same. So now an avatuma with the oil of truma, which is a shlishi, and he doesn't mind, they can burn the truma tameya in that metal bowl, like make light from it, a kohen could use it as a lamp. Now, but why? You're taking the truma, which is a shlishi, and turning it 2 steps. It's going from a sheni to a shlishi. But since you have to burn it anyway, Rabbi Akiva says not only are you allowed to jump 1 step, here you're jumping 1 step from a shlishi to a sheni, Rabbi Akiva says you jump 2 steps. You jump from a shlishi to a sheni to a rishon because it's now touching a bowl, which is an avatuma. So that's what Rabbi Akiva said. Okay? That's what Rabbi Akiva said. So far, now we can begin the Gemara. So let's just look at the Mishnah for a second, just so you see it inside. Rab Chanina said, in all my life, I saw the Kahanim. They burnt basar that was nitma v'lada tumah, which we're going to learn, which is a shlishi l'tumah. They burnt it with a basar that was an avatuma, which is a rishon. So rishon they burnt it together with a shlishi, and they had no problem with it. Afal pisha ma'asif in tumah al tumasik. That's what Rab Chanina said. Rabbi Kiva said the case with the lamp. They took oil that's truma that was nifsal, which means it was a shlishi, and they burnt it in a lamp that is an av, even though they're going up 2 notches. So now Rab Meir said, now I have a new idea. Pashtus, he's going on Rab Chanina's and Rabbi Kiva's statement. From their words, I could learn, on Erev Pesach, you don't have to build 2 bonfires. You can burn Truma Tahira with Tamei of Pesach. So Rabbi Yossi said, what are you talking about? Ezimi miida. That makes no sense, basically. He told Rab Meir it makes no sense. And then he brings in Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shua, that even Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shua says you're not supposed to. You burn Truma Tahira and Tamei separately. And then they only allowed you to burn Truma with Trumea only if one of them was a suffix Truma, not Vadai Truma Tahora, but a suffix Truma. Let's just see what that is all about, and let's begin the Gemara. Now everything is going to fly. Amar Rab Meir midivreim lamadu, midivreim demai. Who did Rab Meir learn his idea that you could burn Truma Tahora together with Truma Tamea on Erev Pesach? Ilay medu, you want to say midivre Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim from the words of Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim, that he said that you burned the kachim together, the rishon together with the shlishi. So the Gemara says, midami, hold it. How can you compare? Hasam over there by the kachim case, tamei v'tamei. It's a tamei versus a tamei. Hacha over here, tar v'tamei. It's a tar and a tamei, as we explained before. As we explained that over there, according to Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim, you're taking tamei and burning it together with another kachim that's tamei, even though it's moisif tuma, but it's tamei anyway. It started off tamei. But Rabbi Meir is talking about when it's tahor, truma tahora, together with truma tameya. So how can you learn it from the words of Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim? Rabbi Kiva, you want to learn it from the words of Rabbi Kiva? Midami. It's same idea. Hashem over there, pasul v'tamim. It's a shlishi versus being and a tamei. Because what is Rabbi Akiva talking about? Again, he's also talking about a tamei bowl being putting together with a shlishi oil, which is pasul. It's another way. It's the lowest form of tumah, but at least it's tamei. So that's why Rabbi Akiva allowed it. But you, Rabbi Meir, want to say that you Rabbi Akiva, you Rabbi Meir want to say you're allowed to burn truma tameya together with truma tahara. That you don't see that. Hacha over here is tar of a tamei. It's tar and versus tamei, and therefore it's a big stretch. You can't learn it from Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim. So the Gemara says a very simple suggestion that Nema Kasova Rabbi Akiva Masnisim Ba'ava Truma D'Oraisa Vlad HaTruma D'Rabbanan the D'Oraisa Tar Ma'alya. Rabbi Meir says that we're talking about over here. Let's do it over here. That Rabbi Chanina, you learning that this was a shlishi midaraisa, right over here, and that's where Rabbi Chanina said you could burn a shlishi midaraisa with the rishon. This is going to be a shlishi midrabanan. It's only a shlishi midrabanan. Midaraisa, this is tahar completely, and Rabbi Chanina allowed you to burn something that min haTorah is tahar together with something that min haTorah is tamei. So therefore, since min haTorah it was really tar, and Rabbi Chanina said since you have to get rid of it anyway because midrabanan you have to get rid of it. So same thing, Rabbi Meir made that stretch. Since midrabanan chametz is going to be usher after the 6th hour anyway, so you could take the truma tameya and be metame with the truma tahora because that's the same thing. Rabbi Chanina was talking about being metame things that were min haTorah were not even tamei anymore. That's what he says. Nema Kasava Rabbi Meir. Let us suggest that Rabbi Meir said Masnis in our Mishnah is Ba'av Hatuma Daraisa. That it's talking about an Av Hatuma which is also in Torah. Vlad Hatuma Midrabanan. Vlada Tuma, that the shlishi, the bottom one that you're burning together with the top one is only Asa Drabanan. Dimidaraisa tar me'alia, and Midaraisa it was completely tar. Look at Rashi at the end. Midaraisa taru. Bahai basar shenasa shlishi al yadai. The basar, the final shlishi was also tar gomim min atarahu. Bashmin and Rabchanina, the kivin the ika lo tumah derabanan. You could learn metam labarishan daraisa. So he says, Rabbi Chanina said, Minat Torah, it was Torah completely, and Rabbi Chanina gave the permission to burn it together with things that were Tamei daraisa. So now let's go to the next page. So therefore, Rabbi Meir learned it from Rabbi Chanina Chestam. My midivrayim. Who did Rabbi Meir learn it from? Midivrei Rabbi Chanina Skana Kahanim. He learned it from Chanina Skana Kahanim, and that's what he says. Rashi says that it's the Truma Tahora in our case is very similarly that of the Shlishi, which is Tar Daraisa, it's only Tamei Derabanan. Because I want to point out to you, and this is important, the bread at this hour, at the beginning of the 6th, is Asum Derabanan. So it has a din like a Tumah Derabanan. So therefore, just like Rabbi Kanina allowed you to burn a Tumah Derabanan with a Tumah Deraisa, so Rabbi Meir is going to allow you to take Truma Tahora, which is Asum Derabanan because it's after the 6th hour, and burn it together with something that is Asar Min HaTorah. So that was the source of Rabbi Meir's psak. That's one version. New Gemara, Amarei Shlakish Mishum Kapara. No, he says that Rabbi Meir had another source. Maslisim Ba'avatuma Daraisa. Rabbi Meir's sources that our Mishnah is dealing with Daraisis. Avatuma Daraisa, Vladatuma Daraisa. Rabbi Chanina ben Eskana Kahanim was only talking about a Rishon, burning it together with a Shlishi that were both Tamei Daraisa. So then, Umay Midivrehem. What is the source from their words that Rabbi Meir learned his din? It cannot be from Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim. Because Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim was talking something that was Asa Daraisa. It was already Tamei Daraisa. How could he learn it from them? No, he learns it from somewhere else. Another source. He's talking about something else. Midivrei Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua. From an argument between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua. And we would paskin like Rabbi Yeshua. Listen. Hey, Rabbi Yeshua. What Rabbi Yeshua did Rabbi Meir learn it from? Ilema ha Rabbi Yeshua. What's the case of Rabbi Yeshua is the Tanam. We learned in a Mishnah. Chavi shal truma shenoiled no safek tuma. You have a barrel of truma, okay, right over here. Right over here, you have a barrel of truma. And you're not sure a mouse fell in there. Or let's say a human came in, let's say a zav came in, you're not sure if he touched the barrel. So it's a safek truma. So comes along Rabbi Elazar, and he says, Im hoysa menachas b'mokem haturpa yanichene b'mokem amutzna. If it's laying out in the open, put it in a secure place. Im hoysa megula, if it's uncovered, yichasena, you should cover it. In other words, don't think that just because now it's a safek tuma, you're allowed to treat it as if it's a vadai tuma. No, you have to be very careful to protect it that it doesn't become tamei bevadai. Treat it as if it's regular truma. If it's out in the open, then it could a sheretz could fall there. Cover it or bring it into a secure place. If it's uncovered, cover it because it's only a safek tuma, and you have to treat it as if it's a tahar. Rabbi Yeshua says, Im hoysa b'machas b'mokem hamutzna. If it's placed in a hidden place, yanichena b'mokem haturpa. You could put it in an open place. Im hoysa mechus. If it's covered, you galeno. You could uncover it. So what does Rabbi Yeshua say? Rabbi Yeshua says because it's a safek truma over here. If it's a safek truma over here, therefore, since you can't use it anyway, you could actually let it be, and even if it becomes vadei truma, no problem with it. So now, same thing over here. Just because, since chametz, this is what the source of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds that since after the 6th hour, truma tahora is going to be burnt anyway. So might as well burn it together with truma tameya. Not a problem. You see how Rabbi Yeshua was lenient over here and said, Rabbi Yeshua was very lenient and says, once you have a safek tuma on it and you're not going to be able to use it anymore because it has a safek tuma, the Kohen can't eat that whatever's in the barrel. You can treat it as if it's like vadei tuma. So same thing over here. Since it's also midrabanan chametz after the 6th hour, so even if it's truma tahira, since you're going to get rid of it anyway, you can burn it together with truma tameya. So the Gemara says, "Mi dami." You cannot compare that case because Rabbi Yeshua didn't say you could actually be metame it over there. What did he say? Hasam over there, grama be'alma. He says you can cause it to become tame, like put it out in the open, leave the lid uncovered, no problem. But Hacha over here, Rabbi Meir is going one step further than Rabbi Yeshua. He's saying biyadayim. You could be mamish metamet biyadayim. Take the truma tahora, drop it together with the truma tameya in one big bonfire. That cannot be the source of where Rabbi Meir got it from. Ella, so the Gemara says he got it from this case, Rabbi Yeshua. Now we learned in the Mishnah. Chavis shel truma shnishbra bagasel yoina, v'tachtoyne chulam tameya, moide. Oh, so let's see the case. Moide Rab Lazar Rab Shuash v'yochel hatzim mimenu biyas para yatsa v'im lav. This is the case. I don't know if you're a fan of I Love Lucy, but if you remember the vat, the crushing of the grapes,
Stomping the grapes.
Right.
Yep.
Stomping of the grapes. So here, this guy had Tomei Chulin in the bottom vat, right? And what happened was he opened up a barrel of Truma Tahora on the top one to stamp on it and crush it. And when you crush it, the liquid comes out and pours into this one. The problem here is you're going to take Truma Tahora, it's going to pour out of the vat over here, pour out of the spout over here, and come into the Tomei and to the Chulin. And therefore, it's going to become usser. And not only that, once they become mixed up, it's Tomei Chulin with Truma, and the Truma now becomes Tomei, you have a big mess. You can't sell it. You have to just bury it. You can't sell it to a kohen or anything like that. Because it's not like Truma Tahora that got mixed up. You can sell it to a kohen because you can eat it. You never sell Truma Tameya to a kohen. So this guy has a problem. He already unloaded the grapes over here and it's starting to leak out. But his problem is that he has this little bucket over here, this black bucket, but it's Tameh, it's black. Now, if he's going to put it over here, he's going to be Metama the Truma directly. Now, why would he want to be Metama Truma directly? Because he doesn't want the Truma to fall into his Chulin, because at least he can save his Chulin. Because if the Truma would fall into his Chulin, then he lost his Chulin too. Because it's mixed, it's going to mix it up and then he can't eat it. So, and a Yisrael can eat Tamei Chulin, that's not a problem. But once it's mixed up, it's totally usher to eat. You got to bury it, or you got to get rid of it. It's not something that you could use, you could benefit from. So he has this Tamei Chulin. This Truma Tahara is almost like a dead Truma. It's dead grapes, because eventually it's going to fall in by itself. You do nothing, it's going to fall in here. So the question is, do we allow this guy to save at least by blocking up the hole over here and to save his chulin? Now, by doing so, what's he going to be doing? He's being mitama biyadayim. He's being mitama the truma biyadayim. But it's going to be lost anyway. Can he take his bucket, which is tameh, and stop up the hole? So the Brisa says that Moide Rab Lezer Rab Yeshua, she'im yochel hatzim imen revius b'tahar yatzil. If you could run to your neighbor and get a tahar bucket and save at least one revius of truma, then you have to run to your neighbor's house, get a little bucket, and save the truma. V'im lav. Let's say you can't get any bucket. Rab Lezer Omer Terid, let it go out by itself, v'titama, and become tamei by going into your chulin, and you lost your chulin. That's it. V'al yitam eno biyad. You cannot be mitame with your hand. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Rabbi Yeshua says that what? Af yitam eno biyad. You could be mitame with your hand. You could actually use your bucket and just block it from going into your chulin, thereby saving your chulin. But here you see, that's the key words. It's not a grama causing it to become tamei. Since the truma was anyway going to be lost, once it's already going to be lost, then you're allowed to be mitame biyayad. It's going to be destroyed anyway. So you could be mitame with your hand. So same thing by the truma tahora. That's how Rab Meir learned it. Because Rab Meir, since after the 60th hour, the truma tahora is going to become usher anyway. So therefore, you can burn it. You can be metame with your hand because it's already a lost truma already. It's after the 6th hour. Burn it together with the truma tameya. So the Gemara says, Ihochi Haimi Divrayim. Rab Meir learned it from Divrayim is plural. That means he learned it from both two people. Midvarav Mibayolei. He learned it from one person. Because if you say that Rab Meir learned it from Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim, you could say the word B'Divrayim, because Rabbi Akiva, in essence, agrees with Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim, so he can learn it from both of them. But here, it's only Rabbi Yeshua who gave the permission to be Mitama Biyad. So what his word should be, Midvarav, from his words, I learned that I can do this. Why did Rab Meir say from their words? So the Gemara says, Hachi Kamer, this is what he said. From the words of the Machlokes between Rabbi Lezer and Yeshua, I learned what I did, and really I'm holding like Rabbi Yeshua. Teikenami, it's precise this way, that was really the source of where Rabbi Meir learned it from. The Tani, it says, Moidu Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua, Shema Mina. At the end of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi brings up Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua. And who talked about Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua? Elamai, that was the source of where Rabbi Meir learned it from Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua. So the bottom line is, Shema Mina, it's a proof. That bottom line is that the source of Rabbi Meir is from that machlokes between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua by the two vats of grapes, where Rabbi Yeshua allows you to be mitama b'yadayim. And therefore, Rabbi Meir could not have learned his source from our Mishnah, because Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahana was talking about doiraisis, and and therefore that's why he allowed you to burn them together. He learned it from somewhere else. Rabbi Nachman said, where was the source of Rabbi Meir? Is Midivrei Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua, from Lezer Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, so we have two opinions up until now of what was the source. One is from the vats, and one is possible from Rav Chanina Sagana Kahanim. So the Gemara just asks a very basic question, and it's very simple. Eisvei Rava Rav Nachman. Rava asked Rav Nachman from the following brisa. The brisa says, Rabbi Yossi, Ein hanidid doibel ra'aya. Rabbi Yossi disagreed with Rabbi Meir. Why? Because Rabbi Yossi said in the Mishnah, in this brisa, he says, what are you talking about, Rabbi Meir? What were they talking about over there? How could you, Rabbi Meir, say that you're allowed to burn truma tahara with tameya? Rabbi Yossi seems to say that you, Rabbi Meir, learned it from Rav Chanina Sagana Kahanim. Rav Chanina Sagana Kahanim is talking about basa that became tamei, to burn it with basa that became tamei. Zet tamei v'zet tamei. And if you're learning it from Rabbi Akiva, im al hashemish nifsa b'tvul yom shemadlik and oisa b'ner shnit mitmei meiz zet pasal v'zet tamei. This is a pasal, and this is a top. This is pasal, and this is tamei. In other words, even Rabbi Akiva's case is talking about cases where both items are somewhat tamei, right? So I also agree with that. I would agree with you. If you have a truma, two trumas, one is a rishon and one is a shlishi, I agree with you, Rabbi. You can burn them together. Why would you burn something that's tluya? Because after the 6th hour, it's still tahora, but you can't eat it with tameya. Shema yove elio v'yatarenu. Maybe Elio will say it's tar. You, Rabbi Meir, want to even say that if something is suffik toma, you're allowed to burn it with vadei truma tameya. Maybe Elio Navi will come to be matarid. And that was one of the things that Rabbi Meir talked about, not only on Erev Pesach, but he also said that if you have a suffik suffik tuma in truma, you're allowed to burn it together with vadei truma. Rabbi Yossi said, who knows? Maybe Elio will come and say, hey, wait a second, that's truma tahara. So where did you come up with that, Rabbi Meir? But you see, the point of this question is that from this brisa, the way Rabbi Yossi talks to Rabbi Meir, it seems that Rabbi Yossi understood that the source of Rabbi Meir's words was from Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim and Rabbi Akiva, not from Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua. That's Gemara's question. The Gemara just finishes off the brisa. Let's just finish. But Isal Kedaitich is the question. So, a pigel v'anoisav atome, the Brises continues and says, pigel and nosar, which is a type of psul of carbon. If the kohen had the wrong intention in mind, he could passel a carbon. Or let's say the kachim was left over. So it's really it's really Tamei D'Rabbanan. If a Kohen didn't eat the meat that he was supposed to eat for a Karban Chatas and left it over, that becomes not only leftovers, but it has a din Tumah D'Rabbanan. So let's say you have these are Tamei Pigulanosa Tamei Midrabanan. And this Vahatame something, a piece of meat of Kachim that became Tamei Doiraisa, can you burn them together? And Shammai says, Ein Nisra from Kach. You can't burn them together. Because one's Tamei Doiraisa, one is only Tamei D'Rabbanan. Beisila said you can burn them together. Because the Maisa, one's Tamei D'Rabbanan, one's Tamei Doiraisa, you can burn them together. Okay, but the point of the question is, if you think there are Meir sources from where? From Yeshua, so why does Amai Mahadale Rabbi Yossi with Rabbi Chinin Sagana Kahanim? Why does Rabbi Yossi answer and start questioning Rabbi Meir from Rabbi Chinin Sagana Kahanim? That's not where his real source was. The source of Rabbi Meir was from the vats, the case of Rabbi Yeshua. And Rabbi Yossi starts questioning Rabbi Meir from as if the source of Rabbi Meir was from Rabbi Chinin Sagana Kahanim. Amalei Rav Nachman, Rabbi Yossi lav adaite. Rabbi Yossi misunderstood Rabbi Meir. To whosoever he thought Rabbi Meir's source is Rabbi Chinis Gana Kahanim Kamalei, from Rabbi Chinis Gana Kahanim. The Amalei, and he said, Rabbi Meir answered him, that's not my source. Ano mid Rabbi Yeshua kamina. My source is from Rabbi Yeshua. The Amalei, and Rabbi Yossi said, even if your source is from Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yeshua na me eni mida. Even if you learn from the case of the vats, that's not correct. Why? That in your case, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua both agree by the Chametz case, you have to make two separate bonfires, one for Truma Tahora and one Truma Tameya. So the Gemara, why? It's a great source. What is wrong with that source? The Chayra, that's a great source. What did Rabbi Yeshua say? Rabbi Yeshua said that you could actually bring a tumah thing and be metama the truma tahora over here to protect yourself, because it's anyway going to get lost. So why can't that be a good source? So the Gemara says, Midi, that's a very good source. No, Shani Osam over there is different. The Ika Hefset Chulin. Because if you didn't do what you did, Rabbi Yeshua, you're going to be taking a big loss of the Chulin. Because you're going to lose this whole over here. This is going to be going to the garbage. Right over here, this whole chulin, if you didn't do what you did. So that's why they allowed you. But stam to burn Truma Tameya with Truma Tahora on Erev Pesach, what kind of big loss is there? So the Gemara says there is a loss there. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, there's a big loss in our Mishnah too. Because without Rabbi Meir, as we began today, without Rabbi Meir's Chiddush, you would have to make two different bonfires. One bonfire for Truma Tahora bread and one bonfire for Truma Tameya bread. You can't mix them. So there's a loss by now allowing you to mix them together. So just like Rabbi Yeshua is concerned, when there's a loss, he allows you to burn and be metama Truma. So here also there would be a loss by you're going to have to be forced to make a big two separate bonfires. So even Rabbi Yeshua would agree that you could be able to burn chametz together, the two Truma Tameya with the Truma Tahora chametz and Erev Pesach. But this is very different. And this is what Rabbi Yossi meant to tell Rabbi Meir. It's different. Rabbi Yeshua would not agree to your stretch because lehefsed meruba chashashu. By the chulin, by the case of Rabbi Yeshua, there's a major loss over there because you're going to lose all that chulin wine. Lehefsed mu'at, but here you're losing only a little bit. You're forcing a guy to make another bonfire. What is that? A few pieces of wood. Lo chashashu. They were not concerned about that. And there they would require you to make two separate bonfires. So two separate bonfires, one for Truma Tahora, one for Truma Tameya. So let's just recap, basically. Rabbi Meir said that you could make one bonfire at this hour, Erev Pesach. You can make one bonfire for Truma Tahora and Truma Tameya. Rabbi Yossi says, no, you have to make two bonfires, one for Truma Tahora and one for Truma Tameya. You can't be metama them together. Now, what was the source of Rabbi Meir? One source says that Rabbi Meir's source is from here, from Yeshua. Since Rabbi Yeshua allowed you to protect your chulin by being metama and blocking the Truma Tahora from falling into your chulin, so he allowed you to be metama b'yadayim to protect you. That was the source of Rabbi Meir. But the others learned The first way we learned today when we started the sugya is that the source was where? Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim. Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim was talking about a case where Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim was talking about a case where they're both tamei. So how could Rabbi Meir learn from Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim that you can mix the two together? The answer is, what's the answer? Rab Chanina Sagana Kahanim was talking about what? He's talking about when this was truma tahar midra. It was only tamei midrabanan. Midoraisa, it was tahar. It was midoraisa tahar. And Rab Chanina said that he saw in the base of Migdash they would burn them together. So we see once you're burning something together, we don't care if you're adding tumah because anyway you're out to destroy it. So it doesn't matter. B'shas you're burning it if you add tumah. So that could have been also the source of Rabbi Chanina of Rabbi Meir. So I'll end off over here so you'll understand the next Gemara. There's a big nafkamina if the source of Rabbi Meir is from Rabbi Chanina or the source is from Rabbi Yeshua. You know what the big nafkamina would be? Because the big nafkamina is, let's say you decide to burn the chametz in the 3rd or the 4th hour, right? Where it's not usher yet, but it's going to get usher. It's going to become tamei. So then, that depends. That depends on who you learn like. If you learn that the source is from Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim, then you can say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you say the source is from Rabbi Yeshua, it doesn't matter whether you're burning it in the 4th hour or the 3rd hour, since it, anyway it's on its way to be lost. Because Rabbi Yeshua allowed you to be mitameh truma tahora already, because it's on its way to be lost. So at this hour, even though you technically could eat the truma tahora, but if you decide to burn it in the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th hour, that's okay because eventually it's going to be lost anyway, the truma tahora, because at this hour nobody can eat it. So he would allow you to burn truma tamea with truma tahora. If his source was what? If his source was Rabbi Yeshua. But if his source was Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim, that means the source was only Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim, then only if you burn it in the 6th hour, we allowed you to do it. But if burning it earlier, then certainly you would have to make 2 separate bonfires. And this we'll see more about tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. I hope it was clear. It's not familiar.
Just that last point. So if you burn it earlier, right, according to Rameir.
We're going to see that tomorrow.
Okay.
But basically, if you want to see what it is, you could look at this Rashi. Avon Baruch Sefer B'Chomesh Moeder Amei the Ein Sarfin, because that's only if your source is Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim. Rabbi Yochanan is going to say that the real source of Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kahanim, and by 4th or 5th hour, Rabbi Meir is going to say you can't burn them. But if your source is from Yeshua, right over here, you would be allowed to burn it, because Rabbi Yeshua is talking about in the case of what is he talking about? Rabbi Yeshua, he's talking about with a oil is already still tar, and you matam it while it's still tar. So that's the cause.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Take care.